It's in the name.
This episode of Helping Healing Humor is brought to you by another show in the Ben and Travis universe, The Long Yes with Travis and Whitney. Most people see the stage, the sermons, the Sunday mornings, but they don't always see the quiet yeses, the hard yeses, the everyday yes that nobody applauds. On The Long Yes, Whitney and I have honest conversations about faith, family, ministry, and what it looks like to keep saying yes to God over the long haul. If you're a minister, a church volunteer, a ministry spouse, or just someone trying to lead your family well, this podcast is for you. Go to benandtravis.com, click the podcast button, and look for The Long Yes with Travis and Whitney, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and start saying yes for the long haul. I'm Travis Creasy, the pulpit minister at Westgate Church of Christ in Dothan, Alabama, way down here, southeast Alabama. That over there is All-Pro counselor, pulpit minister himself, Highland Park there in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, Ben Hayes. It's been a wild weekend for you.
It has. We were on the go all weekend long, driving, walking 8,000 miles every single day through the Opryland Hotel for Lads to Leaders, but it was a good time, and we had a great experience. Our teams and our individuals did a great job, and we kind of wanted to invite our other guest on here today, which is my daughter, Destin.
Yeah.
And she has maybe been on here before, but it's been a long time. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But anyway, she was able to be one of 26 people in 2026 who received the Red Coat Award. Cue the phrase.
The red coat is coming. So, Destin, to the uninitiated, which would be me, how do you pull off something like that? What goes into getting a red coat at Lads to Leaders?
Well, you have to, since ninth grade, you have to participate in like a certain amount of things every year. Like you have to do puppets and speech, song leading, know the books, I think, stuff like that. And then you also, by your senior year, you have to complete a like service project or some type of project to help other people or to like, show, just to help other people in some way and like kind of just spread the word to others. And you have to do it, and you have to have a certain amount of hours that you complete as well during that. So
you get an honorary master's degree as well? Because I'm thinking about, I think I can pull off some of that stuff. I guess I'm too old.
Yeah.
She kind of did some work with a mission trip last year was kind of her project. Some of the other kids have done, different things. Some of them did some stuff directly for Lads to Leaders, I think. So it kind of varies, but it's a pretty cool thing that she was able to do it and be a part of it. And a lot of encouragement from Rhonda Fernandez, whose dad started the program, Lads to Leaders program, in which the red coat is kind of a nod to him because he always had on his red coat at the convention and probably when they did a lot of the traveling around with the kids early on, but it's kind of his signature look. So it's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, as far as like the Church of Christ concerned, I mean, you'd be like a 5-star blue chipper at this point. The red coat, Miss Mars Hill a few years ago. I guess you're COC royalty because you're Ben's daughter too. So, we all have issues and things we have to get over, and you're overcoming your dad. It's impressive to see.
That's true.
It's a big thing. It's a big thing. So, we kind of thought we might just ask you some questions because, I think it is important. Sometimes we've found that a lot of times some of our more popular shows are when we have ladies on here and interview them about different things. And you were Miss Marzille last year in high school, but while it was a really cool year on one level because of that, you also had some difficulties that last year. You kind of overcame some things. So I guess when it comes to school your senior year, what was some of the toughest parts about that?
Well, it started off pretty good. The first semester was like really easy, and like I was like, oh, this is actually like one of my favorite years of high school yet. And then I started getting sick towards like I guess probably December ish, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. So then by I think it was probably April, they figured out that it was my gallbladder. So then 2 weeks before I graduated, I had to have that removed. So I missed the whole the second to last week of high school, or of my last year in high school. So that was not the best thing ever, but.
And there was a lot of on and off throughout that whole last semester just because you felt so
school.
sick all the time.
Yeah. Missed a lot of school. So, and it kind of took away from things I was supposed to do as Miss Marcel. So it's kind of a rough year. So, yeah.
You overcame though.
Yes.
You got there. So, I mean, that's a good thing. And you graduated, you got to go across the stage. So all those good things. So, I think when we get out of high school, you need to tell Travis and I give us this answer because we obviously don't know what it is. But can you tell us a little bit about growth and maturity? Like, what does that look like to you? Because we obviously haven't done it yet. So we're kind of curious, like, what does it look like for somebody to grow and mature, especially maybe as a young lady? If there are younger ladies listening to this, what are some things that you look for in growth and maturity, spiritually, emotionally, whatever?
Well, I would say like in maturing, I guess, like things that happen during school before you graduate, they're not as big of a deal as you think they are. Because things will happen and you're like, oh, that was awful. And then like you graduate and you're like, why did I even really care about that? So maybe that's one thing. Spiritually, well, for me, it's actually kind of been probably harder on some levels because at Mars Hill we had Bible class every day and chapel every day. And so now it's just kind of like trying to figure out when to do that and not have to go to it every day. Cause then it just kind of felt like, oh, I have to go do this. But like now it's like, well, I need to do this, but trying to like find the time for it, I guess, which I have plenty of time, but it's just like harder, I guess, to make yourself do it. So
maybe when it's not scheduled.
Yes. Yeah. So
that's good. No, that's a good answer.
So this is probably a long list. And so I'm not necessarily expecting one person. I would actually be sad if this was just one person. But were there any people in your teenage years that impacted you the most? Maybe you spoke about going to chapel every day. Were there people that, you really looked forward to speaking in chapel, or even if it wasn't speaking, just somebody who may have come alongside you and just kind of mentored or helped or just seemed to always be there for you?
Well, honestly, it would probably be my dad right here.
I paid her to say that.
No, because I don't know, anytime he'd speak in chapel, I always looked forward to it. But like just in general, I guess just like seeing him, like just growing up with like watching him, like preach and then go outside of preaching too, like just always like going to visit people or helping people, like anybody that ever called him, like he'd be at their house, whenever they needed him. So I think I've always just looked up to him in that way because, makes me want to be like that too. So don't cry.
I'm trying not. Good answer. I like
it. I'm not too far off of that. He was that for me too. So,
yeah.
So any mess ups that I have in ministry, you can blame Ben. I'll put his email address down at the bottom for that.
So when you think about school, going back to high school, what do you think is there anything you wish you had taken more seriously in school? A particular subject or a particular theme?
Well, let's see. Anything I should have taken more seriously.
Or something you took
Um,
too seriously that you wish you hadn't? Maybe one of each.
Well, something I probably should have taken more seriously was career prep. um, because like learning how to career prep maybe actually it was business math, same teacher, that's why I get them confused. Business math, because I did not learn how to run a business, and that's what I'm doing right now. So I need to work on some of my taxes and stuff. Something I took too seriously.
You didn't take anything seriously?
Probably not.
That did influence you a lot.
Yes. Yes.
Well, when it came to, I guess, I probably didn't take it serious enough in some ways, but I guess I also by the end of the senior year, I knew I was doing my own thing anyway. So,
well, I liked what you said earlier about some of the things that you really worry about in high school. I think you said something along that line, like aren't really as big of a deal as you think they are. I think that's a really big message. We try as old people to infuse that into the lives of teenagers sometimes. And most of the time they look at us like you're crazy, kind of like you did when I would try to tell you that. And you're now at the age that you're going to start noticing how that's infuriating to tell your younger siblings and friends. I promise you there's more to life beyond this, and they're going to look at you and be like, no, there's not, and so there is. And that does help to know that this is just a really small chapter. School wise is just a small chapter of your life.
Once you're out of it, it feels like just a snap of your fingers. Like it just, I don't know, it's all kind of a blur now, I guess, when I look back at it. But that's definitely something I would say, though. It's not that serious because majority of the people you graduate with too, like, I mean, you'll still stay in contact with them, but like your closest friends are who you're around after you graduate anyways, which is most the time not the people you graduate with. So like my main friend group now is people that I met or people I go to church with or people I met after I graduated. So
and we've laughed about it a few times that it's not even people your age, like
they're like 20 years older than me. I still have friends from school that I talk to a lot, but on a regular basis, it's mostly people way older than me.
Your dad was hoping that when he graduated high school, that would be the effect on me, but he can't get rid of it.
I couldn't shake him. I just
keep showing up at family get-togethers, and eventually he just gave up. So as we kind of shift into like church, I know we've already talked about some spiritual things. I read something yesterday that the percentages, I think it was a Barna group stat, but like and you may be a little young for this, but the younger generation, Gen Z, I guess, is actually attending church more per month than any other age group right now, even more than boomers, which Ben and I do not belong to, by the way. Right. It's like our parents, okay? But, is there something, to your point on, school, what has the church, and we're not necessarily speaking about Highland Park, although I guess we are, but what are some good things you've seen, like whether it's camp or any spiritual experience, what are some good things that have been done to kind of keep you, plugged in? And are there some areas that we could be better at that?
I mean, camp has definitely been one. Like, I grew up going to camp, so, and every year I would go, and like that's like what I look forward to all year, and that's where I got baptized at. So that one kind of has a big effect in my life. And the church, what was the question again? Sorry.
What are some things you think the church got right? I think was that what it was?
Yeah.
Kind of some things that, yeah.
Give us your take on Will Mahan. I'm just kidding.
I think that the church, in a lot of ways, I think all of the classes I ever went through during church probably had an impact on me. Like even my kindergarten, and I can't remember if it was my first grade class or whatever, but it was Miss Barbara and Miss Faye,
Mhm.
and they like I still remember their classes from this day. And they would both, I think both of them, they would always have us bring one can to church every Sunday to put in the bin so that they could be donated. And so that's, I think, and then I had Grant Wright's class when I was in sixth grade, probably, and he was big in like jail ministry and stuff, and he would always talk to us about
Grant Asbel.
Oh, Grant. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. But Grant Asbel.
Grant Asbel.
Yeah.
It was Grant Asbel's class. And when I was in like sixth grade, and he would do like jail ministry stuff, and he would just talk to us like about the importance of going outside of the church, even to people, who have made mistakes, and still, they deserve it just as much as we do. So, and then I had Miss Faye and Miss Susan, which everybody knows about their classes, but I just remember all those classes. And then obviously the Will's class, the youth group class, just going on all the mission trips, which I went with Will to Africa twice, Will and Lindsay both, and Mom. So going over there too, and just, I guess, just all of that is just, it's all had a huge impact on my life. And when you go to different places on any type of mission trips and you see like where these people live compared to where you live, like you realize how blessed and stuff you are too. So it's just, I guess, all of that. So
I think one of the things, and not that our churches were bad at this, but I know that when we, the dinosaurs roamed the earth, and your dad and I were in youth group, and I'm sure the temptation is still there now. There were a lot of people graduating out of the church, and they never really got to understand that it's not about them. And I think the things that you've mentioned are a big deal, that you don't go through youth group thinking, well, all this is about me and it's about my entertainment. And then all of a sudden you turn 19, 20 years old, and there isn't just a specific group geared towards you. And so it's this outward focus where we're training young people to, kind of look for that. And that same thing with the Barna, like this generation is actually turning back to traditional stuff. And it really is mind boggling how things kind of turn and come back, and they're roller coaster. And the thing you think that's old and never going to come back. Of course, we know from Bads, I never thought the mullet would return, and yet here we are. But it's almost that foundational, the things that are very tempting to discard because they feel old. And sometimes we get in the gear that old is bad. I certainly hope old isn't bad, because I don't feel bad, but and so that was really encouraging to me, that it wasn't really about them, that really you're looking for an experience that is not about you, and that there is something bigger and greater out there. So.
Yeah. So what kinds of things, when you think about when you think about church, what are some things you think could be improved on? Not that, God's church can be improved on necessarily, you know what I mean by that, but the way that we do things within congregations, maybe the way that we do things within youth group, the way we do things within the transition from like what Travis was talking about, youth group to college age. Are there things that you go, I kind of wish we, in general, not just Highland Park, but just, in general in faith, that things that we could do better to help younger people?
Yeah, I definitely think that like from going to youth group to college, it's probably one of the hardest things for kids who have been in the church their entire life, or ones that just come and are there for the youth group too. Because once you graduate, it's almost kind of like, which for me, it wasn't bad because I didn't move away. I didn't go to college. I didn't move away. But I know for like some people, like they go off to college and they're used to having a church family, every single Sunday and Wednesday. And then they go off to college and it's all up to them to go go on their own. And I think just the church that they go to could, I guess, be more involved with the kids, which I know Highland Park does have a program, I think, where they adopt a college kid, I think. So, which I think that's a great thing and I think that more churches could do that if they don't already do it. Which I don't know exactly how you'd go about this, but when we did that panel class at church, where we had people from all different ages get up and give their thoughts and beliefs and stuff on certain topics and stuff, I think that really helped me in a lot of ways, because I was probably ninth grade, but we would get up there and they'd ask a question, and you'd have somebody from one age answer the question, somebody from another, and it just kind of shows you like the different mindsets, different point of views and stuff of just different things and happening now, I guess, from different age groups, I guess. So I think that could help.
Yeah, that was Michael Jackson's generational class. And
shout out to you, Michael Jackson.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hopefully we're going to get him on here soon, the president-elect of Heritage Christian University. But yeah, he did that class, and that was really great because it was fun to hear teenagers go, well, I don't think the older people want to talk to us. And then the older people answer their question with, I don't think the young people want to talk to us.
Yeah.
So it's like, maybe both of us need to come a little bit closer to each other and try to, bridge that gap.
What's really cool about that, Ben, is I think that that's something I think positive for us growing up was, we probably didn't want to listen to our parents. But I think with social media and some even television, Bruce is coming to visit the cat. So, but a lot of that stuff is created by buzz or whatever, I can remember going to church and the coolest people there were all the gray-headed folks. That's who I wanted to talk to. And hang out with, and they took a vested interest in us. I know they bought us pitch pipes, and we just rubbed elbows, and we weren't in any hurry. I guess things were just slower back then, to sound extremely old by saying it. And so I think sometimes these big divisions between the generations, I didn't know I was Gen X or millennial when I was 19, 20 years old. And so those things do exist. It's not completely blown out of proportion, but I think we get sold kind of a bag of lies, to your point, that they both stood up and said the exact same thing, when I think both groups would go, that's not true. They want to impart wisdom to you. They just don't think you're listening. But it's like Daniel runs around and you're like, he's not picking up a thing I'm saying. And then he regurgitates every bit of it right back, word for word. Driving to church yesterday, I don't even know what church. Well, Lonnie Jones sent us a text, and it came over the radio, and both Haley and Daniel, who, if you ask me, I would say their memories are about 3 seconds long, quoted word for word a SWAT skit from over a month ago. But it's just figuring out how people's brains work, like Ben does on a regular basis.
Yeah. And not always well, but I
don't know how he does it.
But that is something that's really cool to see the generations together. And I think we, like you said, we grew up that way. And then I think of the time that we went to with Petersville, we would go to Mexico, and there would be older generation, younger generation, middle generation. And we have all these memories. I've got all these memories of guys that were 20 or 30 years older than me. I was still a young college student at that time. Some of them are not maybe that much older than me, but they were at least 20 years older than me. And then, there were like Andy Akins at Pine Hill who would ride his bike with us. And he was, quite a bit older than us, but he would go do stuff with the youth group, go kayaking or, canoeing or whatever with us. And I mean, even now at Highland Park, there's some of these some of the ones you named that were Bible class teachers of yours, that always just took time, invested in time with you. And I think that is such an important thing that we sometimes forget, that, if you invest time in the young people, they're going to remember you. And if, young people, if you invest time in the older people, they are going to love and adore you, because there's just sometimes they feel forgotten. And then interestingly enough, teenagers feel forgotten too. So it's
the wild thing, Ben, you and I are living examples. Like, we are so lame. I mean, we just are. But people have memories of growing up with Ben and Travis at CYC. And so they're super kind to us and very accommodating when, they could not be, and come up to us and talk to us. And all we've done is made goofy videos. And so wherever you're at in the age generation, even if you have a bad experience or two, don't write off everyone because of that, because I think sometimes we are looking for excuses, and certainly Satan is looking for any excuse to keep us divided. And so if you think younger generations don't have any common sense, well, being intentional and try to help them grow that muscle, exercise that muscle, and maybe they can help you set up your iPhone.
There you go.
Sure. That's true.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for letting us pick your brain a little bit about the young people of the world, and congratulations.
One more.
Oh,
and I want to answer from both of you. I'll put myself on the spot first. We had talked, I Googled our Chat GPT. I don't know. I used one of those, like, what is one of the most searched things for Christians, mental health wise? And one of the topics was hopelessness. And Ben, I don't know what your experience is. Yesterday, like, it's Easter, Resurrection Day, jack to the ceiling. It was awesome. But like, I got home and I was tired. And that's when I can be easily attacked. And for whatever reason, I went to bed last night just feeling awful, not physically, but just mentally, just kind of like, man, I'm tired. There's all this stuff, I guess it's coming down off the mountain a little bit.
Yep.
And so I guess the question is, question of the day, how do you battle that feeling? What do you touch base with? And I'm going to start with one that's going to be obvious. You almost, as a preacher, sometimes may get tired of saying it because it's so practical and it's said over and over again, and we're told that it has power. But I think there's a thing in our society that kind of devalues this avenue of prayer. Because it's always readily available. We can do it 24/7, which obviously makes us, take it for granted. But it's also really in some ways, the only thing that really changes things. A love for God, going to Him, and certainly that's what I had to do last night. Lay there in bed and pray, and just be like, I don't know where this funk has come from, but I know the things that are rattling my brain are not true, because you are God and you change things. And so I'm asking you to change my mind. And I can't mention or think of a time where I've turned it over to prayer and didn't feel at least a little bit better.
Yeah.
So there's my answer to hopelessness.
So what's something that you have found that helps battle them?
Probably the same. Like, I would say prayer, or even sometimes talking to somebody. I think those are the two. If I ever feel like that, I don't want to be alone. So I'll try to go find somebody to talk to, or just do something, I guess, to get my mind off of, I guess, feeling like that. So that's
I started to text our text group, but then I didn't want to feel like y'all all might have been on an Easter high, and so I didn't want to.
Dude, we were all on
last man shaking his fist at the sky for being the wrong color blue.
Yeah,
I was in a Lads Leaders crash, so I don't know that we weren't all in that same boat on some level. But I think the biggest thing that I have tried to convince myself, this is in our Worry Coaster book, one piece of it, and that is that you can handle anything for a short amount of time, and everything is limited, and so I kind of learned that with roller coasters. Is I used to worry about roller coasters for weeks, before we would go, or all that day driving there. And a roller coaster is, at the longest, like 3 minutes long or 4 minutes long. And it's kind of like you can endure anything for a couple of minutes, and I think that's one thing I've tried to help people with, is that you may feel a certain way, but feelings come and go. And so when you feel hopeless, a lot of people struggle with addiction because they let that helplessness or hopelessness hang on, and they feed it. They're looking at a situation and they're like, I can't see any way out of this. And so they're frustrated, and that builds up their kind of mindset about it. And then eventually they drink or use or whatever to feel better, and then they feel worse. But if they had kind of found that empowerment in, I can do something about this, or this feeling is only going to last for so long, or, if I'm frustrated with this person, I need to either walk away from it or address it, or, do something different. And sometimes just knowing that you do have some power, obviously knowing that God has power is a great thing too. But that he has empowered us. He didn't give us a spirit of timidity or fear, but of love and of a sound mind. And, that he's given us this ability to, I think power is the one I was missing there. He's given us power to be able to handle some of those situations. So I think just you can ride out whatever it is you're going through, especially when it's one of those fleeting moments where you're tired, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, bored, stressed. You're in one of those moments. You go, I'm going to go to bed, or I'm going to eat me a bite and then go to bed, whatever I need to do. And maybe in the morning things will pass. And generally speaking, I think when I've gone to bed like you have been, I've gotten some rest, then I find a little bit of a fresh start at least.
Things look a little better the next day. Destin, thank you for joining us. Shout out to the Freed Hardeman Lions men's basketball team, bringing home another natty. That's 2 in 3 years. And I think they call it the Fab Five in that level of basketball. I think they made the Final Four of NAIA last year. So shout out to all the Stutz crew and even UNA. He's moving back home, Drew, and going to be coaching there. So, but thank you.
A late happy birthday to the Travis Greasy, who
it was really good.
Came through.
People are very kind. That's why you feel like a jerk when you go to bed on Sunday night. You're like, man, down in the dumps. And you're like, oh, only 350 people wished you happy birthday, you jerk. Like, apparently, people at least love you and have a tremendous amount of patience. But anyways, we hope that you have a great week. Appreciate you, Destin. Appreciate you, Ben. Y'all go get some rest from the L2L crash. The red coats days are coming.
Yep.
Let's go.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.